And the 6WT really is not a weight loss competition or challenge, it's a fat loss. We're looking to change body composition, and generally when we're speaking, if you're losing fat, lifting the appropriate amount of weight, you are going to gain muscle, and you might actually look thinner. And then again, with those people who have sculpted before, they've been here a long time, generally they're walking around leaner. And what will happen is, I know you said maybe for 2 weeks you'll feel good, but a person who's very lean like you, I'm pretty lean, it might only be a day or two, because us losing just a little bit of like the bloating and stuff, it comes back very fast because it shows more on a leaner person who has more of a slight build. And then so if we're talking about like the newer people, we're talking about somebody walking off the street that wants to, join the 6WT. Those people, and we're speaking in very general terms, but usually somebody coming off the couch, so to speak, has some weight to lose. They have, yes, they're going to lose fat, but they're also going to lose weight in conjunction with that, right? So generally speaking, a person who comes off the street, the 6WT, the shred is the track for them for the most part, because it is going to be, as you said, the 101 of nutrition. So the 6WT, this is what we're here to talk about, the garage gym where I am the owner, along with my wife, who's here with us today, Danny, the co-founder, co-owner, and the head of our Fuel Nutrition program, and Austin, our director of training, who's been on this podcast before, some of the most viewed episodes, and Danny's already fixing my collar. Should have fixed the table, it's backwards. But anyways, welcome to the show, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's like deja vu.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, 2 days.
2 days. 2 days. Okay, just like last time. Speak clearly into the microphones, please. And here we go. We're we're off. Hopefully this is working and we don't have to re-record again, because I think this is our last opportunity to get together and get this episode done. So the 6WT is coming up. It's starting March 24th, and it always is probably our hottest. I mean, not probably. It is our hottest ticket of the year. It's the most common way for a new person to join the garage gym, but also we have generally anywhere from 55 all the way up to like 80, 85 current members who will do this program one time, two times, up to, I think we have people that are now doing it for their 7th or 8th time. So when we came up with this program, Danny, I don't know, what do you think it was? How many years ago?
I still didn't look into that number. I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
5 years?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. For sure not 5 years. And yeah, that would it's almost hard to figure out how that can make any sense to you, but
if it's been a couple times every year, that would make sort of sense.
But Kingsville opened 8 years ago, right? 5 years ago was COVID, so yeah, we got to be somewhere in our 7th or 8th year, I would figure, of this program. Maybe even not, maybe even 8th time, because I think Kingsville was approaching the 9-year anniversary. So yeah, we started this program, and it was kind of like the first time we hired out some help with the nutrition, and it was a lot, and we had such great time though. We ended this thing with a red carpet and gave away a membership at that time, and it was huge. It was huge for us, it was huge for our members, and everybody loved it. And I think it was like our real first big business venture outside of just like, hey, we have this gym and come on in and open up, as our first kind of like, like event that we did that was purely based on our membership and making people fitter. We had done all the events with the rowing and the charities and stuff, but it was the first thing like that. So, and it's the goal from day one in this program has always been to transform people, to create life habits, and I think we've gotten better and better at that every time. Would you say?
Yeah, for sure. I think people are understanding that it's not just about being in the gym for an hour 3 times a week. I think that learning to lean into the things that they can do better on their own time is they're noticing that is definitely made their progress a little bit more speedy, let's say.
Yeah, so let me ask you one very important question before we start. When I said, can you make me an Americano? And I said the water in the kettle, you just have to hit the button.
You said you just did it.
This is freezing cold water. This is awful.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You didn't notice?
I
didn't hear that it was not Americano.
You said it should be ready.
That's been sitting there since.
You said it should be ready. You don't even have to do anything to it.
Turn the boiling water on.
Oh, well, you should get your own coffee next time.
Anyways, okay. All right, but I'll keep drinking it. All right. So the 6-week transformation, this time around, we are starting it up March 24th. We are adding, so from day one, we've always had what we call a shred, right? So a shred is a calorie deficit. And then we added about 4 years ago, probably now 5 years ago, we added a sculpt version because we started to find that people in our membership had started to become like seasoned, experienced. They had done the nutrition so many more times that the shred no longer really had value to them. So could you explain maybe, Danny, the difference between the shred and the sculpt formats, which we're both doing again this year, and then we'll talk about our exciting new track that you can run.
Yeah, the shred began because for the most part we had everyone was new, let's say, to our gym at least. So that was our step into the program, and kind of like, and also too, I think that the more you go along with whatever program you're doing, the better you get at it, which then leads to being able to feeling like you can actually facilitate maybe more differences in the action. I think at first, had we tried to do 2 programs, that would have been very overwhelming. So I think that's one reason why we started with just the shred, and then it led organically to going to sculpt as well. Shred, for the most part, is people who have maybe never, right in front of me.
Yeah.
People who have never tracked their macros, or people who maybe don't quite understand the differences between what foods they would put into protein section, carb section, and fat section maybe. Someone who is let's just call it a newbie program. That's essentially what we would say would be someone who would fit very well into the shred. For the sculpt, the program that we added next, in addition to, that's for someone who has some experience in the gym, some experience with food, some experience with habits, and wants to dial it in a little bit more because perhaps the first time they did the shred, they lost a lot of weight, but now we want to kind of dial in the body composition portion of it.
Right, so the body composition being so important. So Austin, if you wanted to speak maybe a little bit of why we really have started to, maybe from the nutrition and the training standpoint. I know nutrition is not your specialty, but you're certainly very well versed in it, and you have a good, solid foundation and formal education in the topic, even teaching it maybe at St. Clair College, right? Right now, we have to start maybe calling him the professor instead of the
I'm not
director.
calling him the professor. No.
So the importance of sculpt, and it's been a battle, so to speak, in a little bit, but like we really at this point have so much buy-in from people who, I think a lot of people, we talked about it before, they want to, it's like, okay, I've been eating poorly, the holidays just finished, summer's coming, and I just want to shred. I want to drop all this weight. But they've been people who've been in the gym for 5, 6, 7 years and have done this program before, and that's just not the solution to actually getting them in that, whatever that is, your bathing suit, form, or your how you feel. And why is that, would you say?
Yeah, I think the advanced or member who has done a shred in the past already and who now is experienced in our gym, you're always probably going to get more out of probably a sculpt based program because you already have that foundation of nutrition, you already have that foundation of muscle, and really the only thing that you're going to get from like shredding down is you might look shredded for a couple weeks, right? And then you're going to go back to, your either your old eating habits, or you're going to basically go back to your maintenance calories, right? So we find that the sculpt is more of like a long-term investment. If you are in the sculpt program, you're going to focus on building muscle. You're going to focus on getting stronger in the gym, eating a little bit more. And overall, if you're looking at almost a year in a gym, right, that's going to lead to more consistent body composition changes, I'm sure, because you're going to build that muscle, and you're going to have no issue if you do want to sculpt down or shred down for, this summer. It's going to take you a few weeks because you already have those habits built in. You already have that muscle already built. So I really think that's like the foundation of everything. And then if you want to specialize for a couple weeks, great. We'll put you in a deficit. But always, I know Danny always stresses the importance of focusing on eating quality, lots of food, rather than starving yourself to get shredded for 2-3 weeks.
And I think too, along those lines, if you have someone who wants to do that, let's say they're experienced, maybe they've done a sculpt before and now they want to do a shred. When you do, let's call it revert back to perhaps being in that deficit, that is inevitably going to treat your body in a way that it's going to then start to crave things. And then you're going to start to perhaps go back to, like you said, old habits where you might fill that void, which is like right. what the calories would be on a sculpt, with you're not going to fill them with sweet potatoes and chicken. It's not going to be the thing. You're going to actually probably maybe fill those calories in the places where we try to get you away from, which you have already done perhaps too. So like it's not to say that if you've done the sculpt and you want to do the shred, you're gonna take steps backwards, but it's highly likely. Right,
and highly likely in terms of when we're talking for our average demographic in here, I would say is 40 years old. Like we have our split with men and women, it varies from gym to gym, but let's say 60-40 women to men. So like one of the hardest things to do past 40, and I'm there, I'm 46, is to gain that muscle. So somebody who's been here for all this time and done all this work, they jump into a shred, and sometimes and oftentimes, and I know with me in particular, we did the shred, a shred a year and a half, 2 years ago almost now, right? I lost muscle. So yeah, I lost some weight, but I lost some muscle. And I tell you, it is way harder to get back the muscle than it is to get back that weight. And the 6WT really is not a weight loss competition or challenge. It's a fat loss. We're looking to change body composition. And generally when we're speaking, if you're losing fat, lifting the appropriate amount of weight, you are going to gain muscle. And you might actually look thinner. And then again, with those people who have sculpted before, they've been here a long time, generally they're walking around leaner. And what will happen is, I know you said maybe for 2 weeks you'll feel good, but a person who's very lean like you, I'm pretty lean, it might only be a day or two, because us losing just a little bit of like the bloating and stuff, it comes back very fast because it shows more on a leaner person or on a person who has more of a slight build. And then so if we're talking about like the newer people, we're talking about somebody walking off the street that wants to join the 6WT. Those people, and we're speaking in very general terms, but usually somebody coming off the couch, so to speak, has some weight to lose. They're going to lose fat, but they're also going to lose weight in like conjunction with that, right? So generally speaking, a person who comes off the street, the 6WT, the shred is the track for them for the most part, because it is going to be, as you said, the 101 of nutrition. It's going to be more about getting them moving in the gym. It's not that we don't want them to lift heavy weights, they're just probably not capable of it yet. So Austin, you maybe could speak to that a little bit, like somebody off the street. Yeah, sure, they want to barbell squat with their body weight, right? But they're probably not going to be able to or endure multiple reps enough to get them enough shape. So it's more about movement, really.
Yeah, when you come into the gym first thing after not training for a long time, there's almost a skill component to every exercise, like a back squat, like a bench press, a deadlift, where you're just really learning the movement pattern. It's almost like skill practice for your sport, right? You're learning that movement. You're not necessarily challenging a specific muscle, but it's gonna do the job, especially if you haven't, had those specific adaptations yet. So you're gonna, really have that kind of like a learning curve where things are progressing fast. You're getting, big weight jumps week to week. You're not challenging anything specifically, but you see the improvements in quality of technique week to week. And then when we do our smaller isolation movements, that's when you can really actually challenge a muscle, because there's less, think of a contrast between like a back squat and like a prone hamstring curl, right?
Right. Yeah. So the average person listening here, it's like, if you don't know what he's talking about, a lot of people, I shouldn't say the average person, most people probably listen to this podcast have a very good idea of that. Maybe somebody's listening the first time, is that like we can regress every single movement, right? And that's really our trainer's job. Austin, the director of training, comes up with our programming. He's going to put it up. Our trainers will then put it on a whiteboard when you walk in, but it is in your app on your phone. And our trainer's job and Austin's job is to like basically draw the picture for our trainer with no color. And then our trainer is going to add color for every individual in here and make the regressions or progressions adjustment based on injury, based on athletic limitations, and get you guys, going in the right direction. Maybe it's my old rusty coffee here that's causing...
Drink up.
yeah. I've never been so scared. So we've kind of hammered that home. So when we're talking about let's talk about the new components. So this one's exciting for us because I feel like this is like, and Danny and I, obviously we've been here since day one. And when we first opened these doors, we did some strength, and we really wanted women in particular, anybody who was looking to lose weight, to lift weights as the primary focus of getting strong being the primary focus, performance being the primary focus rather than fat loss or weight loss. And we were met with resistance as people joined, and they started joining, and they're like, oh, we want a little bit, can we get more cardio? And it was always the battle. We stuck with like what we really believed in, and now here we are 10 years later, and it's almost like we got to beg people to come in to do their cardio. So I know a lot of people have been brainwashed to think that you want to lose weight, eat less and run more, right? Eat less and run or cardio more. And we know that just isn't the case, right?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously it's cardiovascular movement is great for our health. But if we're going to look at all of the best things for our longevity and for, let's say in particular women, I think switching from that original, like I remember my closest friend when I was growing up, her mom used to do aerobics, and that was kind of the norm for women to go do some type of like just sweaty breathing, jumping around movements. I don't know that they touched any weights at that point. That has its place. Like some cardiovascular movement definitely has its place when it comes to like making sure that people are just like, I mean, if your mom or your husband or wife wants to do something, I encourage that they do anything. Anything that involves exercise is great. However, let's lean into the fact that we know now with more information, now that it's 2025, that anyone, particularly women who are doing any type of like weight loading exercises, are going to be healthier. They're going to have stronger bones. And that's going to then also lead into a better metabolism and the way that our body works. So like, that's I think why as the years went on, and it is an uphill battle, but I think that sticking to what we've been saying with the bottom line of having the weights being a very important part of the garage gym, that is always going to be the focus, the main focus.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is like any movement's always better than no movement. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to come up with an optimal training plan, it's not going to be, jumping around. And there are still, fitness, dogmas or franchise or whatever you want to say that really focus that way and probably still take advantage of that old train of thought. But we want to do away with that. There is a purpose, and we know people love it. It's fun. It is very fun. We still have those days in here, but we want the primary goal to be, weightlifting and to be moving weights and getting stronger, resistance training. And another thing I think we failed to talk about with the shredders and the beginners, and if we value sculpt so much, of why we don't put a beginner on a sculpt. And I think one of those things, and I'm helping a client right now, a family member, and it's that the fact that most people come in here underfed. Right, most people, even when they start their shred, and so people understand shred is a calorie deficit. So if I weighed 100 pounds, I'm eating, for example, for the weight of somebody, I'm eating the amount of calories for somebody who was 90 pounds, just to make it really simple. Right, so a lot of people though are not even eating that much. Yeah. So it would really throw a mind fuck into them that we're going to all of a sudden be like, no, you need to eat this much. And then if they're hating it, if they're feeling like there's stuff in their face and they're feeling guilty for eating good foods, we're creating a vibe.
Well, yeah. It's not necessarily just not eating enough. There is that camp where people are not eating until 4 p.m. But there is also another camp where they're eating a lot of packaged foods that have zero substance to them and with a lot of calories. And then when they actually take those away, like let's say you can be in a surplus in that, but let's say then now they're starting on the 6WT and they start to actually eat the foods on the foods list.
Right.
Then it's like, it is overwhelming because it's actually very nutrient dense foods.
Which means it's more filling, right?
Yes.
More, what's the word? Professor?
Energy dense or
satiating.
Oh, satiating.
That's the word that Danny and
throw
around. Satiating. And yeah, you had something you wanted to throw in on that.
No, like Danny's 100% right. I think one of the biggest things we get out of people
Teacher's pet.
Do the what's that? Oh, teacher's pet. That do the shred and that have come off the street are, oh my God, I didn't realize, how much food I actually need to eat in the proper proportions, protein, carbs, fats, to actually fuel myself. And when they eat the proper amount of protein and the, good nutrient dense carbohydrate and fat, they're like, whoa, this is so much food. And it's almost crazy to think that there's some guys in here too that are very strong guys and we put them on the sculpt, right? And they eat 2,700 calories. And they're like, this is so much food.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would be dying if I was on 2,700 calories. You can eat
I'm
way
at 3,700
more, right?
actually.
And then you just see them, get from, that spot and they stick to the plan and how much their strength changes, how much their body composition changes. So I really think it's just a testament to the quality of the food and the proportions that Danny provides too.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I guess we got way sidetracked there, but I think we got some great information out. And the third track, and this is the track that's going to be probably, I'd say probably less than 10% of our people. This is the new track. We started this one kind of like a pseudo, we're going to call this the advanced track. But 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we added a track. We called it Smash, and we had people eating in a surplus. Maybe the name alone didn't attract people to it, but we had a handful of people who got after it and they ate in a surplus during their 6-week transformation. And then that kind of morphed and they lifted a little bit heavier, a little bit more focus for the food that they were eating. And that morphed into what we call the Strength Squad now, which is Austin's small group, private group training. It's much more customized training than the normal garage gym class. And that has become a life of its own. We're sold out. We literally have a waiting list at all times for that program. Take about 25 people roughly, 20 to 25 people,
25 right
depending on a few variables, but which has really worked out great. And now we're coming back and we're going to bring this advanced version because we do have so many people that are in their 4th, 5th, 6th, and that are very, very fit. And I think one thing that's can be bothersome with these people is when they sign up for the 6WT, they're so spot on all year that they end up with really the same macros because you can't just change the science because they've we're not going to give them something that's kind of bullshit just to appease a different number. So this program, if you want to talk about this, we're going to be doing, it's going to take more commitment from the member, but also it's going to get a lot more commitment from you, Danny.
Yeah, this program would be for someone who is extremely dialed in. So I have some clients who, when I'm taking a look at their progress through the week, and I see their bars on their nutrition graphs and I can see exactly what they're hitting in all of the macros, but at the end of the day, also their caloric intake. These are going to be people who literally have very little for me to say. I'm very nitpicky with them. They would be someone who is a little bit maybe stepped back from letting the emotional toll of the scale be a problem for them.
Yeah, they got their head on for sure.
You can't because we need I would need weights every week. I would need pictures every week. In order to be more dialed in, then the member also needs to be more dialed in for this particular track to work the way it should.
Yeah, we're going to be making those adjustments every week. So those people, if they're not hitting the bullseye, then they really didn't accomplish, they haven't really earned the right to change their macros. And the truth is, myself included, we're about to start a challenge ourselves, these trainers, Austin and I, and a few other trainers. I know, Danny, you've got something going on with Nikki and Amanda. And it'll take me a few weeks to hit my macros. And, and I've done this a lot of times. And there's some people in here that'll take 2-3 weeks before they actually hit the food that Danny is providing them. And that could be for the being below it, being above it, or twirling around it as they try to balance out their foods. So to put somebody on that who can't just hit their macros right away, some of these people will just we will give them their numbers, and tomorrow, if it's 100 grams of protein, 80 grams of carbs, and 30 grams of fat, they will literally hit those numbers to the T. And it's incredible, and they're ready to go, right? So those people, they're gonna earn, and they're gonna need a little bit extra if they really want to do, right? What was it you said before? I think, and we wanted to shoot that you need to, if you want to do something that what is it?
Oh, if you want to do something that you haven't done before, you gotta kind of step into the unknown and like do something like you haven't done before.
Right. Put out some effort that you've never tried, right?
Yeah, you're gonna try something you've never done in the past. You can't just expect the same thing from the same thing over and over again, right? You got to apply something specific adaptation-wise.
Yeah, so adding a layer to this is exciting. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be complex. It's going to be a lot going on. And we have some questions that we took. So first of all, people were asking, how are we going to be training differently? This one I have memorized, but how are we going to be training differently for the 6WT? And that can fall onto Austin.
Yeah, so falls on perfect timing because I just finished kind of the programming the other day, but predominantly in the past we've always had our shred folks do a little bit more cardio at the end of the workout. That hasn't always been the case, but you'll see maybe a little bit more lower intensity aerobic type activity at the end of your workout if you're in a shred, right? But the training stays very similar for individuals that are both in the shred, in the sculpt, and in the advanced track. One of the biggest things that you'll notice between those groups is just your energy and ability to progress session to session and week to week with your training because of the nutrition part. So if you're in the sculpt, like you should be really, the training is going to be very similar, whether you're in a sculpt, shred, but you should expect to see the weights increase week to week. You should expect to be stronger week to week. And feel good in the gym with high energy. And that goes for the same advanced track as well. But just because you're an individual that is in the shred doesn't mean that you're not going to be progressing week to week, especially if you're eating more protein and higher calorie count than before. So it's going to be very similar, but you can expect a little bit more cardio if you're someone that's in the shred.
Yeah. And the way we talked about it, I heard it described like this from another coach, a good friend of mine. And I thought it was such a great analogy. Is for these people in the gym that do this 6WT twice a year, and people are like, well, why do you keep doing that? If you're at the gym, you should be in shape. Well, for those people who've been around here, and like we kind of see it as like somebody who plays in the NHL, NFL, NBA, whatever it is. Your brother who just ran, and congratulations, by the way. Last weekend, we went to watch Austin's brother run. He set the Ontario and the the University of Windsor record.
Yeah, he broke his own record by almost a second.
It was unreal. He was so fast, man. He was so fast. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So, but my point where I was going with that is that, Austin's brother and Randa, the fighter that I used to train here, they don't walk around always at their game shape, because to be that dialed is near impossible, and it would be so hard on your brain and your body. And so we kind of look at this is your in-season. We're going to get a good in-season shape right before summer. We do another real good in-season right before the winter hits. And those are our in-season. The rest of the year, we're walking around at like our walking around weight, right? And then we get into our fighter, game shape, right before. And that's a great opportunity to do that. So with the 6WT, we got another question that's come in. This one is, I think, Danny, you'd be great for this. Austin, too. Protein powder. I'm a huge fan of protein shakes or protein mixed in with oats or yogurt, etc. I've always incorporated it into my menu for all my 6WTs. However, for optimal results, would you avoid it or stick to the other sources of protein? Great question.
Yeah. And I think too, maybe people don't even really think about this question, so I appreciate it. Protein powder, listen, if you're picking the right thing, it's great. I think it's extremely helpful, no matter who you are, how far off you are from your protein goals, or how close you can get. It's a great option to have. It is a supplement, so use it supplementary to a whole foods diet.
Yeah, so...
I don't think there's any way I could live my life without protein powder. I mean, the amount of, food, and you can attest to this too, that we would have to eat meat-wise, it would just be uncomfortable for me to continue to eat whole food meals after a certain point. Like, majority of my food comes from whole foods, but I would say a small portion of my protein intake comes from protein powder, and that makes my life just much more enjoyable. Even today, just coming to the gym and having to be here all day, throwing in protein powder makes getting my protein goal so much easier. So I love it.
Yeah, and I have protein powder as a staple in my day-to-day. And for a lot of the same lines that Austin said. And also, but I think like people are like, oh, well, you guys are saying that, but also for anybody, like a beginner, like we said, it's going to be very hard for if you've never eaten your macros in the, getting all that protein all of a sudden, you're going to be full, right? So what Austin was alluding to with his, and you probably see it, okay, well, Austin's got 3,700 calories. That's different, but it's kind of going to be, very much representative of anybody who starts this. If that food is going to be intimidating, it's going to be easier to get down if you're, having protein powder. Also, from like a different sense, the way the world is right now, protein powder is pretty cost effective. A lot of bang for your buck to get, 32, 60 grams of protein, even sometimes 80 in a day, depending on how busy my day is, without, buying a $40 worth of steak or chicken, right? So that's also a very cost effective way. So, I don't think you need to avoid it in terms of if I was going to, from what I know. And I know, Danny, you're going to say like, it depends if your gut's bothered by it, but we should be buying a good sourced protein. We recommend.
Yeah, no, I think, so a lot of people do complain, not a lot of people, there are people who complain that sometimes their protein or their type of protein bothers their stomach. For the most part, I think that's been debunked. It seems as though like a very like pure whey isolate, especially animal proteins are always better than plant proteins, is proven. So doing a whey protein is always the best choice. And if we look at the packages of the items that we use Canadian protein. If you look at the ingredients list, just like you would look anytime on any other type of food, you want the least amount of ingredients, and you want ingredients that are what they are. You know how to pronounce them, and maybe there's 5 ingredients in Canadian protein, which hits all my checklist.
In particular, the higher end, right? So if you want to filter that on that website that has 1 million products, just filter the most expensive protein, and then you're most likely going to find your way to the higher protein, not the vegan one. We're talking about the New Zealand whey typically is going to be the best one. And if you find your way there, use code GarageGym15 to save. And they might just kick us a couple of bucks back, and we appreciate that very much. And they are a great company to deal with, and I love their product, and we love their swag.
Yeah.
Right? We love their swag.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, great question. Thank you guys very much. So we got another question coming in. How will the teams be decided? So that kind of like, I guess, helps me into, that's part of my role in this thing. Austin does the training, Danny does the nutrition. My job is kind of the culture and the fun behind it and the gamesmanship part of it. Typically, we run these 2 6WTs a year, one in the spring and then one again in the fall, like pre-winter. And one of them, usually the one that we just did, the fall one, is going to be more individual based. But then the one in the winter is usually our big one, this one that we're about to start, which is our one with the teams. Everybody's kind of getting back from March break and leading into summer and ready to rock. So it is an individual competition, so to speak. Really, your numbers don't matter next to the next person, but it is fun to give out some prizes and awards for people who really had the greatest transformations. But we also, on this one, we're going to be putting people onto teams. Those teams are to help you with motivation, accountability. Sometimes there's been, the cases where we're running. We always have a theme to the 6WT. We've had Amazing Race, we've had Survivor, we've had High School Cafeteria. There's been so many of them over the years. They've all been fun and all been original in their own way. This time we're calling it Poker Run. And the next question on here is, what does the Poker Run theme mean? So to answer both of those at the same time is Poker Run stuff, I'm not going to tell you. I can just tell you that the team part of the game will lead you to get a hand in poker, and that'll be it. And then the team with the best poker hand will win some kind of prizes. How you're going to earn those cards, though, is going to be a secret. And how we're going to pick the teams. We've had anything from partners to foursomes to huge groups, huge teams. This year, we're going to keep the teams. It'll kind of be based on the numbers. Nikki's incredible, right? She knows. She's been on maternity. She's been off for so long and knows literally everything about every single member across all 3 gyms. So Nikki helps us pick, and we do try to help, foster relationships. So there's sometimes if people are new to the gym, or if we think somebody should connect with somebody else, we'll get them in the same group so that they meet. But a lot of times we're just trying to strengthen friendships and usually strengthen our classes. So it'll be largely based on the classes that you come to is how we're going to try to put them together. We got to keep them fair and balanced. So we will work on that. But that's kind of answers that, in a long-winded ways. We go by, 5 a.m. in Amherstburg, 6 a.m. in Amherstburg, probably jumble those people together, et cetera, et cetera. This year, though, unlike any other year, we are going to have prizes to the individual gyms. So the team game will be probably across all 3 gyms so that we have enough teams to make it kind of cool. But the individual stuff will be, you're only competing with the, 20 to 40 people in your gym that are doing this thing instead of competing against 100 like they were last year for the person. Last year we gave away trips to Mexico, but they only had like 1 in 100 and something chance of winning it. This year the chances are higher. And so I guess we're talking about the competition part of it. We've balanced this thing in a way, our formula, our transformation factor, we like to call it. It is based on your starting body weight as well. So the person who's 125 pounds has an equal chance to the person who enters this thing at 350 pounds, right? So that part has been huge. And it's kind of funny, like over the years, when you look back at all the people we've had win, we have had all shapes, sizes, men, women, younger, older, and everything in between.
Yeah, you would think that there is no really rhyme or reason behind the transformation factor.
Yeah, you would.
And again, I'm really bad at math, so I'm trusting Nikki in the transformation factor. But yes, it's nice to see when sometimes it's surprising and sometimes it's and again, the numbers are so close always. So like it's that part's exciting too, is because you might think your front runner is going to be someone, let's say Don Smith. But then Don Smith,
who's got like top 5 finishes in his career.
But like that's what I mean.
We're starting to have career stats for these people, which is pretty sick.
Yeah, like he might make it to the top 3, but then the next time you think he has just as good of a chance, and then he's 6th, or right? Like I don't know. It's just it's wild.
Yeah, and it is. I love looking back at it after and being like trying to figure out how people win or lose, and like like typically the Don Smiths are pretty fit guys. So if you took somebody who has 20 pounds, 25 pounds, like there's always men who've lost 25 pounds and multiple, like in the teens and inches off their waist and don't win. But typically those guys are walking in with so much muscle already on them, they're not gaining the muscle, they're just losing a lot of fat. Or sometimes there's a smaller person who gains a ton of muscle, loses a little bit of fat, and all of a sudden they're on the podium.
Yeah, it's freaky how it turns out, right? Because you get, like you said, you get the newbie that can, has 100 pounds to lose, right? And you're like, always hear, how do I compete against that person? Like, I could never win this. But then it's like at the same time that a person has a wide ability or big ability to change their body composition. But like also you've been in the gym for 5 years and you are like dialed in.
Yep.
You know exactly what's going on. You have that base, right? You have a competitive advantage too, right? Like you're starting from a sprint. They're starting from, out of the blocks, right? So you have that kind of running start as well. So it's just funny to see how it always works out.
Exactly.
And it's good to see that it changes every year.
Yeah, and year in, year out, there's always somebody that we're like, how the heck did that person get up there? They have nothing to lose. Like, that's what people will say in the crowd, right? Like, looking at a thin, fit person, and then they'll be like, how did so-and-so not win? He lost 30 pounds. And it's pretty crazy. And last year, the 2 winners, speaking of contrast, we have a female Nat firefighter who is, she's, I would say, a gym rat. I don't know her for longer than the gym. She's been part of this gym for 9 years and has always looked like she's very fit. Like when she walks into a room, you're like, that girl works out, right? You can very much tell. She's a small build. And then you had Chris Parsons, who won the one before that, who was never walked into a gym in his whole life, was probably over 50 pounds. That's the overweight. And a monster of a man too, like probably 6'4". And he wins. So you had like 2 completely opposite end of the like kind of spectrum people win the trips to Mexico last year. It's always so cool, and we're always so proud to pick those winners. Another question from the field before we wrap this thing up. Okay. How much protein powder is okay? We kind of touched on that, but
yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to your size, just like anything else,
point.
Right? How much chicken is good to eat? Well, it's going to depend. I'm going to eat a much different serving size than perhaps you guys, but like I would say for me, typically I would be aiming for if I have like a shake and I add another scoop to some yogurt, that would be a pretty common day for me. Maybe less than that. Again, I love food. So adding shakes for me is always about convenience.
Yeah.
Always. It's not something that I would be like, I just really want a shake. Because to me, I'm like, oh, but I want to eat something. Like I want a real meal. But adding it to cottage cheese or yogurt is a great way to kind of find the middle part of that. So again, it's just going to depend. Like you might add 2 scoops to a shake and then 1 scoop to a yogurt. So again, I would say typically anywhere from half a scoop to 4 scoops a day would probably be a pretty good way to kind of like balance all of those. It just depends on how what your calorie count looks like.
Yeah, and everybody in this place, in this room here, loves food. Right? We would all prefer to have food. But I'll tell you one thing, and this does roll into the next question. I know Austin has a good stance on this. Is like, one of my favorite meals of the day, I don't know why, is just cottage cheese, a scoop or 2 of vanilla protein, strawberries, and some pine seeds. Right?
No pumpkins.
Pumpkin seeds. Sorry, the green ones. I always have them confused. She always has all these seeds in there, but I like the green ones. Right? And that's one of my favorites. And this question kind of leads into this with thoughts on dairy, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese.
Yeah, I mean, I love dairy. Like dairy's in my diet every day, whether it's milk, like you said, cottage cheese, or like yogurt. That is like a staple in my diet, and I tolerate it well, right? So that's just something that like it sits well with my stomach. It flows with the meals that I have every day, and I just find like those 3 also are just very easy ways for me to get some extra protein in throughout the day. So I love, Greek yogurt, high protein Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, milk. Like that is always a go-to for me. Yeah.
Butter gonna find its way in there for you sometimes?
Never.
No, okay. No. All right, yeah, and I agree with Austin too with the Greek yogurt. I'm not a big Greek yogurt. I love cottage cheese. I know Danny's always hammering on the Greek yogurt. The kids tease her about how much Greek yogurt she likes to use on her potatoes and stuff. But yeah, I'm a big believer in that too. And Austin hit that. And Dan, you said it too, and she was alluding to it. But like gas, like you know what? When you're eating high protein, and I did carnivore where it was basically dairy because anything that comes from an animal, so meat, and I had no gas, I had no stomach issues. It's when you start adding in a lot of those complex carbohydrates and some of even the ones the healthy carbohydrates where you start to find problems with the gut. Another thing back to the dairy is, I know at our house, I'm assuming Austin the same, is we're not trying to get the 0 fat dairy. We're getting the 2 to 3% fat in our cottage cheese and our milk, right?
Well, we want to, anytime that things are taken out of something, then they're replacing them with something that ideally is probably not good for you. So the reason why we're not going fat-free is because they're taking the fat out on purpose because they want you to feel like you're eating something healthier, and then they're going to add some fillers and some sugars. So just realize too that there's a difference between the dairy and the cottage cheese versus the Greek yogurt as well, and that's a good way to adjust your diet for being satiated. Greek yogurt is going to be a little bit more fast acting, just like taking a shake, whereas cottage cheese is going to have casein protein, which is going to be slow digesting. And if you do have a fat percentage in that dairy, that's also going to slow digest as well. So just consider those options if you are going to join the 6WT, that it's not always just, kind of black and white. I think that with dairy, I think for most people, it's a great choice and it's an easy choice.
You'll notice how none of us mentioned fucking oat milk. Okay, or almond milk or skim milk. Okay, take those things, pour them out. Right? There's a lot of things that we're being sold that just are being sold as health items and aren't. Okay, so please keep it simple, keep it effective. Our training is simple and effective. Our nutrition is simple and effective because it works. The gimmicks continue to come and go, and the basics continue to stay and get people results. The 6WT program is a life changer. It's what we do. It's our bread and butter, and we are 100% committed to creating habits that are going to be life-changing. It's a 6-week slingshot. It's a perfect time to fast track your nutrition. You think it was somebody like Keith Waters who jumped in here. Everybody loves Keith. Keith, owns Home Hardware. Great place if you're going to support. Go spend some money there if you need some 2x4s or anything. They're the most helpful place. But Keith started, and he's almost at 100 pounds lost at this point. And that was his slingshot. And then from there, he's, it was fast. It was like 30 pounds really fast. And then another 10 pounds pretty fast.
Keith
from
is
there,
on point.
From there, it's
FYI.
been like drops in a bucket. But he built the life habits from there. And he just continues to put drops in the bucket and continues to chop away at his goals. And he's crushing it. So see this as a slingshot. It's not 6 weeks and you're out. It's 6 weeks and then you continue. That's like Austin said. It's 6 weeks to like you're running to the starting line of your fitness journey so that you hit the ground running instead of starting from the blocks.
Yeah, I think I had a conversation with a member on the floor last night, and I was telling her, I'm like, honestly, I feel like you're gonna do this 6WT, and as soon as you're done with this, it's gonna like completely change your life. Like you're gonna build so many good habits that you're almost never gonna need to do this again. In the fact that you're gonna have that base, you're gonna learn the nutrition aspect of it, and you're gonna learn those specific habits, and then in here and on the gym floor, it's just gonna be another level for that member.
Yeah, that's the last part that we got to hit on is like the environment for the 6 weeks of this program is going on in here. For even the people that aren't in it, they are all in it for each other. The people who aren't even doing the 6-3 transformation are all about the other people succeeding, and the environment in here will be it's lit, it's electric all the time. But when that is going on, it's wild in here. It is absolutely like I am so pumped to come to work. I'm so pumped. I get to move around gyms. You guys don't get to do that as much. Well, Danny does, but you other trainers don't get to do it as much. And I'm like, I won't see somebody for 3 weeks, and I'm like, I see them like, oh my God, what a difference. Right? It's just, I love it. I love it, and I can't wait to get going. 6-week transformation starts March 24th, but you got to sign up now because Danny's got to build your food out. We got to get you all the information. Red carpet at the end with some prizes. If you're interested in joining, you can go to the link in our bio or give me a shout on a comment. As usual, if you are a member and you bring us in another person who's never been in this gym or has been away from this gym for a long time, we'll take care of you and get you set up with a free transformation if that person signs up. So all in all, great episode, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on, and we are fucking pumped to get this thing going. We are almost got dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. I know you've been working real hard on it, and so have you. You guys have both been putting it in, and we're ready to put that stuff to work.
Let's do it.
Can't wait.
Let's go. Over and out.